Welcome to Hampshire. Today we're in Gosport and we're here to shoot Spinnaker Tower. Great to see you all again, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Today, we've come down to Gosport to shoot the fantastic Spinnaker Tower, which is based over at Portsmouth Harbour. But it's a much nicer shot to shoot it from this side. Now, it's the first time I've ever actually been here, and it's the first time I've really seen it, so I'm really quite impressed. It's one of those locations that I've known about, and I haven't actually been down to shoot it for forever and a day. So decided that I'd do the journey. It's about 60 miles here for me and about 60 miles home, so it's quite a reasonable trek, but it is well worthwhile looking at that skyline. And what I thought we'd do is I thought we'd have a go at a bit of a nighttime sort of seascape, nightscape, cityscape, you know, all sort of crossed over together. That's the plan for today, but I've come down a little bit early because it's quite clear, as you can see. There's just a little bit of light just dotted on the skyline out there, but it's nicely pouring through onto the tower itself. So I thought I'd maybe come down, get a couple of pictures before that light went and before it all gets dark. And we've got a little bit of cloud just hitting at the back there, so we might even get a tiny bit of colour in there, which will be a real nice bonus shot. But the night scene's what we're really here for, so that's the thing. A little bit about the tower. Now, it's quite an interesting story with this particular one. It took 5 years to design and plan this particular tower, and it took another 5 years to actually get it built. And the cost, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but some say 35 million, some say 45, but it's a staggering amount regardless. But it's known as Spinnaker Tower, but it used to be known as Emirates Spinnaker Tower because it was sponsored. But as of this year, the sponsorship has finished, and it's now back to being just Spinnaker Tower again, which is what everyone kind of knows and loves it as. Now, from what I understand, it was built in, finally finished in and opened in 2011, and the structure itself is 170 metres high. Now, it's a viewing platform up there, so it's obviously something that gives you an incredible view, but what it also has is it's illuminated at night by 50 individual lights, which can all be changed to various different colours. So what we're hoping for tonight, I'd be really happy if it was a nice blue colour, but you never quite know what you're going to get with these because the lights themselves can be sponsored, so you can pay, I believe it's about £150 for a night, and you can have the colour pretty much anything you want on there. The only thing they won't do sort of political things or anything like that, but it should give us some interesting scope. As I say, at the moment we're going to focus on getting a few shots whilst the light's there, and it doesn't look too bad. We've got a nicely lit tower because it does look absolutely beautiful, but we'll get more onto the night stuff later on. Now, in terms of the composition itself, I've got a lot of stuff going on around me. We've got like a dock here for a ferry which is going backwards and forwards. There's a marina just to the right. Obviously, we want to focus just on the tower itself. So what I'm trying to do is zoom in, crop in quite tight, get a little bit of the sea in there. Depending if there's any sort of night reflections, we might use that later on. But I'm going to be shooting at f8 because the city skyline is pretty flat out there, to be honest. And the reality is I don't need a massive depth of field there. So I want a nice sharp image. I'm going to stick on f8 and I'm going to line the tower up just on the third axis on the left hand side of the frame. That way it will give me a nice sort of balance. I don't want it slap bang in the middle because it just won't look right. Maybe if I did a panorama later on, then it will work, but for the time being it's going to be on the left third axis. I can't really sort of go either side of it, so that's the plan. One thing that's making it very difficult to shoot here is the fact that the Solent itself is so busy. We've got ferries coming in, you've got ferries going to and from Portsmouth from Gosport, and then you've got the main sort of sea area just out here, and the larger ferries are arriving from that. So it does cause a lot of stuff to be in and out of your shot, which is a bit of a pain, but I think we can work with it and see if we can do something. The other problem, as you can probably hear, is so much noise. There's so many people running around here. It's a very, very busy area. So we're just going to have to make the best of it as we can, and hope I don't kill people later on for making too much noise. Something else of interest for the tower itself, it was actually chosen. There were 3 designs originally for this particular tower, and it was chosen by the residents of Portsmouth. They got to have, you know, their say in it, so it's a really, really nice thing. But the tower apparently has only got a build life of about 80 years. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen after that, whether it will come down, whether they'll renovate it, I really don't know. But it's a viewing platform at the moment, and as you can see, the glass sections up the top, which are, I believe they're about 100 metres high, give you some absolutely stunning views over Gosport, Portsmouth, and of course all Portsmouth Harbour, and out into the Solent. So it's a pretty impressive structure. The sunset itself wasn't actually too bad. There was a little bit of high level cloud just behind it, and it caught quite nicely. It was a lovely pink hue all the way across. So I managed to get a panorama done and a sort of a fairly close in shot. But yeah, it looked quite reasonable, so I'm happy with that. The tower is meant to light up 15 minutes before the sunset, but at the moment it hasn't actually lit up. So I'm a bit kind of not knowing what to do, whether to hang around and wait for it or not. But yeah, it'd be a bit of a bummer to come all this way down and not get the night shot, which is what I really, really wanted. But gonna hang around, see what happens, and you know, maybe they're just a little bit late and you know, behind on the lights. But the city skyline is starting to light up, and that's our aim tonight, to get that. So all to play for, and we might still be able to nail another shot. I thought I'd mention as well, whilst we're talking about my aperture that I was using earlier on, which was f8 for that tower, there's a secondary reason that I want to use that as well, is when you're using like a much sort of like a narrow aperture, obviously the blades, they will give you like a little, like a sun star, if you like, and of course all of these lights that are out there are all going to develop sun stars as well, which is not really what I want. So I'm trying to keep the aperture, you know, quite wide open, so I don't really, you know, get that, and get a bit more sort of bokeh on the light rather than a sort of a star effect on there. Well, it's quite a way after sunset now, and it's still not lit up, but I have spoken to a couple of people who've walked past who are local, and they assure me that it does light up at night. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're still going to be able to get something. But yeah, the skyline itself is starting to you know, get some interest there now. There's a few lights in and out, and yeah, it's looking pretty reasonable. So hopefully we might get lucky and it will light up and we'll get a decent shot. I would have liked to have done this when there's a little bit more cloud, if I'm honest, because I think, you know, if you've got a sort of decent amount of low cloud there, I think it might quite sort of glow up. But you know, maybe one for another time, and you know, we'll come back and do it again. But right now everything's a learning curve for me here. This is the first time I've been down, so yeah, we'll just see how we get on. Confident we've got a decent sunset in the bag anyway, so we should hopefully at least have one reasonable shot. Well, it's nearly an hour after sunset and the lights still haven't come on the tower, so I really don't know what's happening. I don't know whether to wait it out for a little bit longer, but yeah, looking like a bit of a fail at the moment, so I'm really, really glad that I got the early pictures when I did of the sunset. So yeah, just have to wait and see how it goes. Well, the shoot turned out to be a little bit more eventful than I planned. First of all, you can guess I'm back here. The lights didn't come on the tower, which was a bit of a shame because that was the entire reason for going, really. But these things happen. It said on the website that the lights would be on and they just weren't. It's not a lot I can do about that, so decided to call it quits and come home. But it wasn't without incident. I had one chap who was just wouldn't leave me alone. He came over, he wanted to chat. He was there for nearly half an hour, just rambling on about trains and all sorts of stuff that I had no interest in whatsoever. I tried to be polite with him, he just wouldn't get the hint. So in the end, I packed up the gear, which obviously appears to be a nutter magnet because everybody wants to come and talk to you when you've got tripods out. So decided to put that away, and I sat there for about another half an hour just waiting to see if the lights would come on. And in that time, some random security guard starts screaming abuse at me. I've no idea what was going on. He didn't seem to know what he was talking about. So at that point, I had enough. I decided to call it quits, pack up my gear, completely come home. So on the way back, they decided to close the motorway. No warning, and there's no diversion set up. So I ended up taken nearly 2 hours to do an hour journey whilst I tried to navigate my way around Southampton, which was a bit of a nightmare. So it's definitely a shoot that I will remember, but for all the wrong reasons. But as it happens, I did get a couple of pictures. I'm going to stick those up in a second. I hope you guys like them. These were obviously just at the sunset sort of time, and some were from the evening, but of course the tower wasn't lit up. But yeah, if you have enjoyed today's video, please do hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.